Hey, everybody. Welcome to our 22nd episode of Enjoying Orange Slices with Jeff and Ian. This week we talk about the playoffs. We talk about who's left. And we also talk about the Vancouver Canucks a little bit just because Ian loves to talk about them. The other thing we talk about is density altitude. So stick around and drink from the cup of knowledge with us this week. Enjoy.
Welcome, Jeff. My name is Ian Bagg. I am the man that has not been to a hockey game during these playoffs. You are a man that's been to 3 and going to 2 more. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
What was it like being in that building the other night when the Colorado Avalanche lost to the Las Vegas Golden Knights?
Okay, the Vegas Golden Knights. You say Las Vegas all the time. I don't want to come down hard on you to start, but you got to get it right.
What
Vegas.
is it?
It's the Vegas Golden Knights.
But I don't know if you know. I don't know if you've ever seen your name of your town on a sign, but it's called the Las Vegas. It's not called Vegas. It's called Las Vegas.
Catherine Chapman, who does a great job, said something about Las Vegas Golden Knights too the other night, or she said something about that. So, anyways, Vegas works, but Las Vegas works too. We all know what we're talking about.
We know what we're talking about. Don't come down hard on me. I've been dealing with my wife all weekend. Give me.
Exactly.
Right.
It's heating up here too. I might be getting a little cranky because it's getting hot, but yeah, we got to deal with some heat for a while. We'll talk about that later. But so I was at the game, what was it, 6, Vegas in Colorado, and it was crazy atmosphere as it always is at T-Mobile. But the game was nuts. McKinnon was double shifted. Makar was out there all the time, and Colorado played a really good game. But Vegas was just able to do a few things to tilt it in their favor. Super exciting to watch. I'd love to watch Colorado and Vegas all year. It was kind of unfortunate that they're not in the same division again next year when you have all the people in the stands again. Mm-hmm. Love to see them. Well, I guess we'll see them we'll see them at least once, maybe twice with the way the schedule goes. But super fast team, huge expectations on both teams. And now Colorado's, they're on the sidelines, getting knocked out for the 3rd year in a row in the second round. And they're getting there, though. I mean, there's some heat on them in Denver from the press, but they just need a couple more pieces, maybe just a bit more experience with some of their young superstars, and it'll happen for him, I think.
Could you tell? Because it seemed like Vegas was able to out-lean on them. Where is the Avalanche? Are they a little smaller than Vegas when you look at them?
You know what? They got some good-sized guys, but Vegas in their whole lineup might be a little bit bigger. Definitely a bigger team on defense. Because Makar's not the biggest guy. Girard's not the biggest guy.
They got a lot locked up in Girard too, don't they?
Yeah, they got a lot in those 2 young guys, and that's what I'm talking about when I talk about young stars. Defense is the hardest position to learn how to play in the NHL, and especially when it gets to the nitty gritty. And both those guys are tremendous young players, but I think Vegas's D was a little bit more experience, maybe a little bit, maybe a couple breaks here or there, who knows? But that was a difference when I watched. And then the other thing I thought from Game 6, and I'm a big fan of Coach Bednar in Colorado, he knew he had to play his stars as much as he could. And what happened was his bench got short right from the start of the game, and they didn't get their depth forwards out there maybe as much as I would have liked to have seen them play, or maybe he, in the end, I don't know, it'd be a question for him to answer. But they played McKinnon and Landeskog, Rantanen a whole bunch. Mm-hmm. And as the game went on, you could tell Vegas had rolled mostly 4 lines. They got down to 10 forwards a little bit, but Vegas's depth and their structure was the difference in the series.
That's what it seemed to me. It seemed like how great those McKinnon, but Girard, the defense. You got to have that man strength. Like they're not quite there. It's you got when you're pushing against Pietrangelo. he's a fucking man. Like he's, and you can see it. It doesn't matter. You're just not there. And they weren't able to take that beating from Reeves and all those big guys. And Tuck was just like a beast coming through there. I think that takes a little bit longer for a defenseman to come into his own. You got to at least have some sort of strength on that can take the heat off it for a guy like Girard.
Yeah, and he's a really good young player. He moves the puck well. He's very quick out there. For him, he's not going to be 6'5", or 6'4". But one of the things that I think he'll take away from this is obviously he's going to get stronger, and he's gritty. He plays hard enough. When it gets going out there, he's got the wheels to get himself in positioning that he needs to. And on one of the goals, that kind of, I think was the fourth or fifth goal, that kind of put it away for Vegas, was Carrier and Girard were right in front of the net. And Carrier, he's a big, strong guy, really hard to handle. So with a guy like that, you're not maybe going to be stronger than he is, but you can maybe be a little bit more positionally sound. And that's tough to do, though, when everyone's kind of fighting in front of the goalie for the loose puck. But Colorado, I love a lot of things about the team. It's going to be interesting to see who they lose in the expansion draft and who they go after when the free agency starts or in trades.
It was one of those games where you could have your favorite team, but if you were a fan of the game, as we always say, you were not losing no matter who won that series. Yeah. You're oh, look at the size of that cup.
I'm back. And you know what? Look at that. They got all the teams, but this is before Vegas was in the league.
My God, you have to have
probably 21 teams back then, but this thing, it's heating up in Vegas. So I get my big ice cup now with a ton of water in it. But yeah, I agree. I think Vegas and Colorado, I think everybody enjoyed the series. Now, obviously, if you're a Colorado fan, you think it's tough. I get it. But and I am a Colorado fan. It's one of my favorite teams in the league. I love watching McKinnon. When you get to see Makar play in person, and his lateral movement and the way this young man can skate, and as the game went on, you could see McKinnon was going. He got an assist on the first shift. He was flying. Makar was flying, but I noticed that sometimes they're just trying to take on, and not so much McKinnon because he's been in the league now for a while. He's 26 years old, but Makar, I noticed he was trying to take a lot of it on himself, and he's going to be more than capable of doing that over 82 games and a lot of playoffs. But just growing into the experience of the NHL, and
just growing into your
chance to watch the Habs. He's awesome, and they fly around the ice. I love the way they play.
There was nothing horrible about that series. If you're complaining about that series, you are not a fan of the game. You are a fan of one team, and you only care about that right there. That's right. I'm pointing somebody out that's in the press in Denver.
I didn't see that coming. Awesome. I'm like, what? Where's he going? I thought you were talking about Luciano Casamari.
No. You
would never tell him to bleep
off. No, not at all. And
by the way, you're getting greasy. Good.
Getting grease. By the way, there's something right above my right shoulder, right there. The Las Vegas. That's right. I said it again. Versus Montreal in the third round. You will never see that again. That is history.
Yeah,
that is amazing, and you get to go see Montreal in the playoffs in Las Vegas, and that once again, there's no loser right now in these playoffs except for Toronto. Toronto's a loser.
Well, but Luch, we'll talk to Luch about Toronto maybe in August when he comes back out of hibernation for the summer here. But
from what I've heard, Toronto's actually trying to recount how many goals were scored, and they're hoping that they can have a recount on it and have Toronto reinstated into the league.
That's right. They're going to be the fifth team in the conference final.
But how great is that you're going to that game and we're ignoring the other side right now. We're going to ignore those other teams over there. But that's there's a T-shirt out for that. You should buy it because that is history.
Yeah, so for the people that might not be aware, Montreal plays in the Eastern Conference normally. Obviously, this year with COVID, they're not there. And so normally the only way Vegas and Montreal would meet, and I imagine both teams are definitely hoping they see each other again in the next few years, would be in the Stanley Cup Finals. So this is a special year, and the way it ended up going, I believe, is because Vegas ended up with the most points of the Final Four teams. Montreal has had the least of the regular season points. So that's how those two get together. And then New York and Tampa are over on the other side, the Islanders. So, yeah, I got to tell you a story, and I might have told you this before. That what's today? 22. This is our 22nd podcast. So there's been so many of them, and I can't remember if I brought this up or not.
Stories are going to cross every once in a while, people. The stories are going to cross. So you can't deal with that.
So I would just say that coming out, it was a couple of years ago, maybe year one, I guess it was, and when Vegas started, and I was there for warm up, and Montreal came onto the ice, and they're going to most likely, I'm almost 100% sure, wear the white with the red and blue trim tomorrow night, and I just love their unis, and it's the same feeling I got when the Rangers come on, and Boston and Detroit. Of course, shout out to my boys in Detroit, but it was so cool. And the Blackhawks are the same thing when they come to town in Toronto. But right. Montreal, to me, is one of my favorite unis. I love now the uni they wear at home, which is the red one. It's probably my favorite uniform in the whole league. But they're the ones they're going to wear in this series on the road, the white with the red and blue trim, are beautiful. So
right.
You got all this beautiful uniform, this original six team that I think we've talked about it before. When the original six teams are good, it's good for the league. And at this point, you can have an underdog, you can have a favorite, you can have whatever you want, but you got to tip your hat to these teams that are there. And of course, I live in Vegas. We love the Knights.
Las Vegas.
Yeah, we live in Las Vegas, but we're big fans. It's been an unbelievable experience for the community. They've tied a lot. They've healed a lot of wounds that came from the 1 October. They've done a lot of good things in the community, and they've got a guy like Marc-Andre Fleury who could run for senator, governor, and mayor of Nevada and mayor of Las Vegas and win all of them unanimously.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a great story against history. The Canadians are just history, and you got these upstarts in Vegas that are in the conference finals for the third time in their 4-year existence. So good, whatever way it goes. Yeah, I'll be down there cheering for them, but I'm just thrilled to see the Canadians doing well. I know a lot of people probably up in Canada are like, oh, we're the Canadians, but I think it's great. And original six team in the Final Four is really good for the league.
No, I think they couldn't have asked for anything better to happen. It doesn't matter who would have played Las Vegas. I think it would have been great, but with Montreal in there, with that jersey, with their history, and it shows you how much of an escape sports is for people. And when there's great people that play the game, it's in a bigger escape when you can cheer for a human being that's in that jersey. So, and there's just nothing but good guys on both sides of those jerseys. So that's a great series. And the same thing over. We've gotten away. We've gone West Coast. We've said, oh my goodness, how great's the West? But how great is New York Islanders coming up against Tampa? And as we talk, the Tampa have lost the first game that everybody thought would be. I'm just like, whoa! But how great! That's another logo that that New York Islanders logo is awesome.
Yeah.
So, and congratulations to them for beating the Boston Bruins, which is another original team. And I didn't see that coming. Ian Bagg said Boston Bruins will take it, and the Boston Bruins said, no way, we're going to lose it. And I apologize.
Yeah, the Islanders, watching them as the playoffs have gone on, take me back. I mean, we're pretty young people still, right? But we're old enough to remember when the Islanders were in their heyday,
right? With
Mike Bossy and Trottier and Bobby Bourne and Butch Goring and Billy Smith and all those characters, Nystrom, Clark Gillies.
Oh,
they had a cast of thousands out there, and they had the greatest group of guys. And I happened to play for Butch Goring and Bobby Bourne, great guys.
Where did you play for Bourne?
Both of them I played for. Actually, I played for Butchie in Vegas in the IHL, and then up in Utah, and then I played for Bobby Bourne, Borney in Utah. So so it was great, and just they tell stories about back in the day. But you see those Islander uniforms, and I just watching them again today. We're taping this week on a Sunday. Usually we do it on a Monday, but the game's over already, and there's just classic, and they look like they're loaded up and ready to go. They totally shut Tampa Bay down today. They did some things that I think for them to win the series. Obviously, they're going to have to do. And one of the things that Tampa Bay, and we talked about special teams, but Tampa Bay absolutely gave Florida and Carolina a beatdown on the power play. And today, the Islanders, I believe, only gave them one penalty kill, and they had some chances, but they were able to kill it off. So stay out of the box against Tampa. They're very good 5-on-5, but so is New York. And the way they played today, I'd expect to see a long grinding series, but New York's feeling it, their structure, and with your favorite, Barry Trotz, who's a favorite of mine.
Barry Trotz.
Man, look out for the Islanders. Yep.
I think guys love to play for him. I think he's got it down, and I think there's I don't know if there's a scarier coach in the finals right now, to be honest with you. And none of them are bad, but I think Trotzy is old scary Trotz. That's what I'm going to call from now on, scary Trotz.
Scary. Well, I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, Mr. Bagg, we're going to have to give you a +1 on that this week, because if you talk about the coaches, and we spent a lot of time talking about Montreal, but we'll earlier on in the season, their coaching situation, but you've got Barry Trotz, who has done nothing but improve the Islanders since he left Washington, where he left as a Stanley Cup winning coach. And the Capitals have kind of drifted the other way. You've got Tampa Bay, who was knocking on the door. Finally, with John Cooper, got their cup last year. Two fantastic teams.
Great coach.
You come out to Vegas, Pete DeBoer's track record since he's been in Vegas, and he was very successful in New Jersey and San Jose as well, has been phenomenal. And then you got new school, and Marc Bergevin, who made the change to Dominique Ducharme in Montreal as a young head coach, has created a win for them as well. So it's kind of an interesting thing to keep an eye on. But
Ducharme is the most different one out of all of them. Like, when I watch him coach, it seems I was just like, is that guy just there to drive the bus? Because he doesn't seem like he's doing anything. He seems confused the whole time what's going on, but he's taking it in. Obviously, he's putting it in the dressing room and leaves it all there. Doesn't show any emotions on the bench. I don't know if he doesn't speak English or what's going on, but he seems to obviously give them sort of he makes them feel calm and confident, and that's what you need in a coach, right? At the end of the day, those are the things that make you a winner, is being confident and calm in situations.
And obviously, it took them a while to get a hold of them, but their consistency. They won 7 in a row now. They were down 3-1 to Toronto, and that was basically lights out. They got into 2 overtime games. Toronto was all over them. They were able to find a way to scratch and claw and win. Then they just dismantled Winnipeg. And one of the things that Bergevin did is built that team to be able to play this time of year, and they're playing. And Ducharme is
we have said many times on this podcast, and I don't know if anybody listens to this thing, but we said Montreal was built for the playoffs, and here they are. So
and they had their issues throughout the regular season. They got off to a great start, but they found their game now. One of the things that they have is they've got some really nice infusion of youth with Suzuki and Caulfield. And then you've got some veteran guys on the blue line like Shea Weber, Edmondson, Sherratt, and Jeff Petrie. So those guys are all big studs. And then you got a great goalie in Carey Price. Carey, good BC boy from Lake, British Columbia. So you have, and then you've got some other guys up front like Corey Perry and Gallagher. And so you've got a really nice mix there. And I don't know which way this series is going to go, but I wouldn't be surprised if you don't see a long series here as well. I think they give Vegas all they can handle, and I think Vegas gives it right back to them. And to me, in the end of this series, special teams is going to play a big role. These guys haven't seen each other in over a year, and they don't play each other a lot as it is. So early on in the series, watch for some massive breakdowns with both teams defensively, and the team that's able to limit those the most is going to be the team after 2 or 3 games that's going to have the lead in the series.
I'm really looking forward to that, to these games, because they haven't played each other all year and they don't know what's going on. Look at the size of that goddamn.
No, it's like an eclipse every time I bring this thing up, but
it's hilarious.
I'm drying out down here.
You know what's going to be interesting is the temperature. The Montreal Canadiens coming in for and playing in Vegas and Vegas isn't sea level. It's a little bit up there, so I wonder if it's going to affect them at all.
Well, okay, so here, because of one of my other jobs it's a thing called density altitude. So everybody knows Denver is a mile high. Okay, so it's 5,200 feet, and then as it gets warmer, the air gets thinner. Vegas, around T-Mobile at the airport in Vegas, we're right around 2,200 feet. So if you put some, do some magic, and you go, for the people that aren't aware of what's going on out here, I'm sure they all are, but the temperature Monday night is going to be 112. Now the game starts at 6, so it might be 110. But by the end of the week, it's just going to be 112 to 117 all week, which for our Canadian friends, Celsius is going to be somewhere between 44 and 46 degrees Celsius this week in Vegas, okay? I'm just going to throw that out there. I can get a little bit more exacting. But if you start adding up the altitude with the temperature, and you throw in the barometric pressure and then the dew point, you will get the density altitude. And I didn't know we were going to do this today, but thank you for giving me the floor, Mr. Bagg.
I do it.
I didn't know I was going to do it either, but I did the calculations on and just kind of some rough estimates. And if you were walking outside in Vegas on Monday night and you were on the strip, and of course they're going to be inside, right? But with all the heat and the density altitude, you'd be feeling, your body would think you're like 5,900 to 6,000 feet. So it's going to be density altitude, what your body feels like, or what your car would perform like in a really hot day, or an airplane would take forever to get off the ground. It's because of the density altitude. You might be at 2,100 feet, but with all that stuff. So the long-winded answer is it's going to be hot here, and the air is going to be thin, and there might be some factor for both teams there.
My wife it turns into a mess in Vegas because of the heat and the thin air. She turns into an absolute mess. So it's not going to be fun times for the Montreal Canadiens. My goodness, that is bringing us all around there. That we've got them all around. And by the way,
look, I learned something there, and
very the Avalanche and Carolina, do not count those teams out. I think Winnipeg may be a team that you can count out. Boston, I don't know what's going on in there. I don't know if they're going to have the same goalie. Do you think Tuukka Rask is out of Boston? Boston.
Well, I think what happened. You were roboting there, or did you just not? No, you're not able to get Tuukka Rask out.
I couldn't get Boston out. I called Tuukka Rask. I couldn't get out. I was like, what a mess.
No,
you think he's done?
No, I think what happened to him is he had an injury, and he played injury for the year. I know they do in the playoffs. I get it.
I know, but the way they're coming down on him, I don't know why he'd go back there. Like the press and that coach, the Sullivan was kind of a douche to him, So I could see him walking.
Cassidy?
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. Cassidy
Sullivan would have definitely been, because he's a coach in Pittsburgh.
They look alike. They look alike. I confuse them. They totally look.
You know what? And they would have played against each other at the same time. So that could be.
Yeah, I know what I was doing. It was just a barometric pressure put me off. I'm a mess over here trying to talk. But I think it's time for Tuukka to pack his bag, and maybe. I would say Washington, D.C. might be a nice place for him to go meet up with his old tall buddy.
Well,
they're looking for a goalie.
Here's the deal, though.
All right, tell me the deal.
Yeah, I guess I blurted it out. I better come up with something good now. Here's my view on him. He said that he only wants to play in Boston. He had a nagging injury, and I think it'll all come out in the wash here as we go through. They needed him to be better, and way better than Varlamov in the island. But what really hurt Boston is the loss of Miller and Carlo.
Yes.
And, Miller was the kind of guy to keep the flies off the better players.
Absolutely.
He's a tough customer. He plays a physical game, and he gets some room for some of the other Boston players. The other guy's Carlos, 6'5", 6'6", big rangy guy. Those guys are really effective this time of year. He got injured, so they had to load up some of their younger defensemen. And we just talked about younger defensemen earlier in Colorado that are super guys and super young players. I really like them, but maybe this time of year against a veteran team like the Islanders, it's just so much tougher, and little things are magnified. and end up in the back of your net. So
I agree there. But people that are dumb say that Tuukka Rask was the problem, and he wasn't the problem. He may not. He wasn't 100%. So he may have been something that once you put it all together, that doesn't make them win. But they figured that he was the 100% why they lost. He was not. He was part of the problem, but it wasn't because he's a goalie. It's because his body let him down, just like all of us.
Yeah, exactly. And the option in Boston is go with the young goalie Swayman, who played really well for him this year, but still is a first-year guy in the league. So I think Cassidy's looking and going, "Hey, who gives me my best chance to win, even if he's a little bit nicked up." You got all that experience with Tuukka, and he's a real character. And if you ever listen to his interviews, he's very straightforward, and I think he's hilarious. I love watching him play, and I love listening to him in his interviews. And I just think this year, he was kind of a little bit by the injury bug, and just wasn't able to maybe be as mobile as you want to be in the net. And then someone may say, well, they should have played the other guy. And that's a question for Bruce Cassidy. But
I think he gets a bad rap in Boston. I think he's really. I think if you put him in Seattle, if Seattle was able to grab him, you've got yourself an Mark Fleury Andre Mark Fleury Mark Andre. Oh, I'm falling down the mountain as we go.
I know you. You know what? You went right over the handlebars today. I couldn't. I'm just going to try to offer you some water when you stop rolling.
That's the way of what? Okay, we're getting it. No, but he might be out if he ended up in Seattle. It might put a fire under him that says, "I'm about to." Oh yeah,
I think a guy like that, you're probably looking to do what Henrik Lundqvist did last year when he was finished with the Rangers. He tried to sign with a team that thought it would give him a good chance, where he could compete for playing time in Washington. Of course, he had a health condition that kept him from playing this year. But I don't know. I mean, and we're on Seattle real quick. They're in the Pacific, and I certainly wouldn't rule them out right now for at least to make a run for the Roses and get a playoff spot. I mean, the only clear-cut team that you would think is Vegas right now in the Pacific next year that looks like you could put them into a playoff spot. You would assume Edmonton would be another one with McDavid and Draisaitl and Darnell Nurse up there, but they need to fix up what they're going to do in goal. So, maybe Tuukka says, yeah, I'll come out once he sees what's going on in Seattle. And if he likes some of the guys they got, maybe he comes out. But I don't know. I think he's a Boston Bruin, and if he's got enough money, if he decides that he doesn't want to do it anymore, and it can't be.
Definitely got enough money. I don't know. I just think sometimes you don't know what you got until it's gone, and I think Boston should be careful with what they when they talk about him.
And they need more depth behind the top line of Bergeron, Pastrnak, and Marchand. If they tried to bring in Taylor Hall to do that, he did it early in the playoffs. But
I thought Taylor was great there, and I think they'll re-sign him.
Okay.
Let's go to some mail. We got two mail. We got one. We got one from Robert Carlson. He said, "I'm so pleased that Brad Marchand was so nice as he was outed. He was bounced out of the playoffs. Congratulations, Brad. Great to see you. So brave." And then he asked, "Would you recommend I sell my Tesla stock now or hold?" I say hold. This is the time to hold because there's just not enough materials. So the prices of what they've got going on are going to rise. So it's going to affect everybody. I say hold. Jeff?
Yeah. I didn't expect to be given the stock picks today, but yeah, I would. I mean, a company like Tesla, and the stock split not that long ago. So if you're invested in Tesla, you're playing with the house's money. I would say, yeah, that's a good stock to be a part of. I mean, we're more into the resource sector of stocks, but if we branch out, we could say Tesla. That's a pretty good company to have in your portfolio.
Absolutely. Always, if you got Tesla in your portfolio, congratulations.
Yeah.
Also, congratulations to Rob. Rob's a big fan of the New York Islanders. So moving on to the Final Four, congratulations, Rob Carlson out of New York City. We have another letter?
You say he's a big fan of the Rangers?
He's actually a big fan of the Islanders.
Oh, he's a big fan of that. Well, then, you know what? He should be happy. Yeah, no wonder he's sending all those good questions.
That's right. That's why he sends good questions, and he's very excited about Marchand being kicked out of the playoffs.
All right. Okay. Well.
All right.
Hey, you. How about this one, Jesse Herbst? Jesse, I hope I'm saying your last name properly. He's got a question. He's got one. You know what I love about this? Jesse's he's dragging us back into the North Division. So all my friends in Vegas are going to start clicking it right now. They're like, sorry, Chris Meyer and Terry Meyer, but we're going to talk about the North for a second, because they actually sent us a question and they don't send me texts after and complain to me. Hey, guys, what is your view on the Canucks and Jim Benning? How much more time does he get? He seems to draft really well, but his free agent contracts are not so much. So that's a great question for anybody that's follows.
I'll answer it, and then you. His drafts, he's either hits home runs or he strikes out. There's no real doubles with him, but he's had some big home runs. And then his free agent signings are just Jesse. And I think he should have been let go, to be honest with you. I don't think he's a great general manager. I think he's an assistant general manager. Boom. Over to you, Jeff.
Wow. Okay. I'm not sure where I'd go with that, but I'll try and pick up the burning pieces of that. You just took them down hard. I will say this. Some of the acquisitions, free agents wise, I wouldn't disagree with Mr. Bagg. Maybe a little bit too much term for what they got, but he might have been a bidding war against someone else and thought he really needed these guys. Jack Hughes and the Hughes boy. There's three of them, and Jack, I believe, is in New Jersey. So the Hughes, and I apologize for not having his first name, but they drafted him 43 in your program, number one in your heart. Hughes and Elias Peterson are two of his last
and Demko.
And so those two alone, if you look around the guys who were drafted around them, taken in front of Pedersen a couple years ago was Kel McCarr. And then Vegas picked after them, and they took Cody Glass, and then and so it goes on. So they've made some really, really good pick in the draft, and they bolstered their team. Vancouver's issue is filling in around them in the depth, because those guys are still young guys trying to grow into their game. They are good in goal. They're strong up the middle with Horvat and Pedersen. They got Jay Beagle, who's a veteran guy in their fourth line, was injured a lot this year. Myself, I think some of the guys they got there are they need more out of, obviously, but that's a good question. And part of him maybe not moving on yet is the finances. Everything's been put on hold in COVID. And the other thing is the ownership might be giving them one more year to see if they can start to put it together. Because remember, Jesse, they're in the Pacific, and the Pacific had a really rough year. So next year, these guys all get to play each other. And Vancouver, maybe they return to form that they had in the Edmonton bubble in the playoffs last year.
Exactly.
So
and
one more year, I would say, for him.
On the other hand, Jeff, you brought up those drafts. Virtanen, if you look when Virtanen was taken, who surrounds him, you'll be like, oh, okay, that's what brings his Benning's, his grade down a little bit, is the Virtanen draft.
Mm-hmm.
Boom, take that.
One other thing to remember is Pedersen was injured for a big part of this year, and when Vancouver went on that skid, they went on a big one, and they got off to a terrible start. I think he was there then, but squeezing the stick a little bit. But that was a big issue there. So I would say one more year for him, and see where it is. Sometimes
I don't think they'll have him after next year.
Yeah.
Any shout outs as well?
Okay, we'll get a shout out. But one other thing is they're still carrying Roberto Luongo's contract, I believe, for one more year.
Yeah.
So and they've got Louis Eriksson, who they signed to that big ticket. I know everyone likes to beat him up, but you know what? I mean, I would have signed the same deal, $6 million. $6 million a year. I'm knocking stuff over here now. But anyway, shout outs. So carry on. We'll get back to Vancouver another day.
Do you have a shout out, or shall I go with mine?
I have a shout out because we're not going to tape again before next weekend. And so next weekend is a big weekend because it is Father's Day. So happy Father's Day week and weekend to all you fathers out there. People are listening, and thank you very much for tuning in. The other thing is we got a great week of hockey coming up, and next weekend, if you're a golf fan, Phil Mickelson goes for the career slam at the U.S. Open at Torrey Pines, where he grew up in San Diego, California, or La Jolla, just north. So happy Father's Day week to everyone. Have a great week. Happy Father's Day. And let's go, Phil. Let's see if you can get the slam.
My goodness, I cannot do a better shout out than that. So I'll give a big shout out to my papa, Gary. He listens to this show and he says we're wrong all the time. You're wrong. Just play the young kids. Shut up. So big shout out to Papa Gary. And yeah. We'll see you all next week. Love to all, Jeff.
Love to all, Mr. Bagg.
Peace.
Well, that wraps it up for another week of Enjoying Orange Slices with Jeff and Ian. Another riveting show. I'm sure you're on the edge of your seat. Thank you so much for listening. We brought in hockey, we brought in the Weather Channel, and we brought in the Vancouver Canucks, which I guess is still hockey. So have a great week. Happy Father's Day out there to all you fathers. And here's hoping we're talking about Phil Mickelson winning the U.S. Open this time next week. Love to all.